At the Synagogue Church of All Nations, Prophet Tibijoshua leads the congregation in mass prayer, and the power of God immediately comes on the scene and uproots whatever that is not of God in their lives. He begins to prophesy and exposes the hand of the devil in the lives of the people. Let's listen to him.
There is a brother, you have tattoo everywhere. I think I touched you with your tattoo. Here. You are a criminal, dark, okay. That spirit is tormenting you, disturbing you, okay.
Wonderful woman here right beside me. This is my mom. And yes, I'm thankful to be here. All glory be to God. Last weekend, Prophet Tibijoshua actually prophesied and called me amongst the crowd. I was actually sitting right at the back, and due to I didn't want to sit in the front, but he actually called me and he told me that this is something I never told nobody, and I think nobody knew about it, but he just called me and told me that I used to live a life of a crime, and the spirit is actually tormenting me and it's gonna disturb me and it's gonna give me trouble. That's when I came out. Yes, indeed, it is true. Though some of the things that I'm gonna say, my mom, this is the first time I will be telling the truth. Even my mom, I never told her the truth. This is the first time that she will be ever having this, me being saying this, but live on camera. And it actually started while I was I think it was around 1996. It was the year I was in my high school year. Raised with good values, being a boy, being in high school, getting straight A's from school. But then I was a good boy in the house, doing all chores, being good in the house. But every time I go to the street, everything changed. I had to be like a crook in the hood due to being growing under the older guys that because we used to stay next to a park. So they used to sell drugs and have like cars and taught us how to car wash and taught us how to open a car without a key and things like that. So we sold like some weed and drugs for them in a park. So that's how I got introduced in the street life.
Okay, so at what age were you when you actually began the issue of selling drugs and meeting with these older gang members? At what age were you?
I was still young. It was my early years of studying in high school. I think I was 16, 17, yeah. And we actually started just looking at them, doing what they do, having guns out there, and being car washing and doing all these things. So they taught us how to, like I said, open a door of a car without having a car, and knowing which cables you can start a car without using a key. And we used to sell drugs by the parks that we used to be playing in. But then by the park there, we used to recreational things, where we used to play, tumbling and all that. But then we'll be around the park and we'll be selling drugs for them. So me having that, and my mom didn't know whatever I was doing, I would go back and I would be a good boy in the house. But every time I went outside in the street, those are the things I had to do. Doing the material and vanity and things that being as a youth, those are the things that were actually exciting me as a group. So I was a junior member of a gang, as you would like to say. And then that's when it started being in the park. We started robbing people with knives. But at first I was young. We would drop vulnerable people, people who are drunk or people who are a couple who just chilling at the park, just rob them their belongings and that. And then it went to be graduating to having a gun, of which a gun is something that the first encounter of a gun, it was with me and my friends. I think it was 97 or probably 97 or so. I was still in high school with a best friend of mine. And we actually disarmed the gun from a friend of mine, the other friend of mine, who came with his father's gun and he showed us the gun. But we took a gun from him. But we had a fight, me and my friend again, because we actually didn't know who was supposed to keep the gun. I wanted to keep it, he wanted to keep it too. So we kept the gun between us. Sometimes it would be in my house, or sometimes it would be in his house. And that's when we ended up selling drugs. To selling drugs, after selling drugs, then now we started disarming other people who are selling drugs in our community. because we wanted actually to own the territory. So if we knew that you selling drugs in our community, then we'll come through to you and rob you. And then, yeah, with a gun, from knives to guns. And then now having like money for drugs and things like that, we actually moved on to like disarming other guys who have guns. And that brought us some more of other gangs. And then by then I was still young. I was still being used due to me not having fear. I wouldn't have fear. I didn't hesitate in doing things. Even if I was scared, but I didn't hesitate into doing things. So I would disarm and I would have a gun, but my mama didn't know nothing. And no, I was just a good boy. She can tell you. I was just a good boy. Everything was just sweet and just like that. And me, like being in there, I would be in prison, in and out. Sometimes I wouldn't even tell her because I would stay maybe in prison for 2 days, 3 days, but I didn't tell her. A couple of times, in and out, and selling drugs. But then, you know, she would hear that, she'd hear that I'm selling drugs, but she heard that later, at the later stage. I think at the later stage, that's when I was actually in university. Because I graduated from university as well, and after graduating from university, that's when I was older. Then I started having a car. And even when I brought a car to her, I told her that, Mama, I bought a car, but she didn't know that the car was stolen. But I told her that I bought a car, and she knew that I bought a car. I would come to her, she would help me with money, and things like that. I'll go back and spend it the way I spend it.
Okay. Someone with tattoos all over his body, he felt that he would not actually be accepted in the church environment. He felt he would be looked down upon or condemned because of his appearance. But to the glory of God, when he arrived at the Synagogue Church of All Nations, what he experienced was love and acceptance and care. And that really touched him, for him to have seen such a reception in the house of God. And as a result, when the word of prophecy came forth, he realized that what the man of God said was something he had never told anyone. He had never disclosed his past life, even to his own mother. But when the word of prophecy came forth that there's a man with tattoos all over his body who's a criminal, that touched his heart. He came forward, and ever since then, to the glory of God, he has been completely freed from that spirit that was disturbing him, pushing him into crime, pushing him into taking drugs, selling drugs, armed robbery, and today he's a new man. Let's put our hands together for Jesus Christ one more time. So once again, we're just showing this so people of God can really understand the extent of what Jesus Christ has done for our brother. And we give all the glory to God that today he is free